MP has suggested that male refugees who are settling in the UK should be given lessons about female equality as part of their integration process. What's more, this MP wants to roll out such courses to British boys and men too. While the idea has horrified some, I think it seems eminently practical. Norway and Finland are already delivering such integration and orientation courses to refugees at their reception centres. There are many nuanced aspects to Western culture that simply aren't the same as where many of these people hail from. These differences, rightly or wrongly, were a central part of the debate after the horrific sex attacks in Cologne. Even the very idea that a woman can freely live alone in the UK is a surprise to certain male refugees, or that she can decide when or who to date. Such classes may sound slightly trite and patronising to some, but if done well, they could be seen as an educational welcome to an enlightened country where women are getting a better deal as the years go on and on.
Any idea what these classes will comprise?
I do have a few ideas, actually. I have looked across to Finland and Norway. I can show you a slide. If you look at Finnish law and sex, what they say about this, and I find this staggering that this even needs to be taught. We do have a slide here. It says, law forbids sex or touching another person without his or her permission. Women dress for looks, not touches. I'm not saying every refugee that comes into this country needs to hear that.
I understand.
There is another slide I could show you, but it's along the lines of what you would probably consider sex and education, stuff that we do in school, and also around LGBT and the way that we treat people who want to have equal marriages.
OK, so I have a question. If you're sent on assignment by a media organisation to Saudi Arabia, do you think it would be a good idea to walk down the street in a bikini drinking from a bottle of vodka?
No.
Thank you. So why should it not be that it's beholden on people who come to this country to learn how you behave in the West? If we know how to behave when we go to, quotes, their countries, really ugly, but just for the purpose of debate, if we know how to behave where we go elsewhere in the world, why shouldn't it be beholden on them to learn? Why have I got to pay my tax dollars, tax pounds, to start giving these people classes?
Oh, so you disagree with the idea of the lessons? They should just learn it anyway?
I find it truly extraordinary. If I'm invited into someone's house, right, just to keep the analogy going, I'm seeking asylum, I want to be a migrant, I will learn to respect and live by their rules, whatever they might be. We do drink wine at lunch, we don't drink wine at lunch, we do this, we go to bed, the kids
I get the metaphor. Right? But we do have an issue in this country, and the Labour MP that's looking at this is in charge of looking at the integration of refugees. She is part of a committee that's looking at, a parliamentary committee that's trying to figure out how we can better integrate refugees into our society. This is one element that was picked up as a very interesting element in light of what happened in Cologne. And I think it's a really interesting debate and issue because we want to be a multicultural community as a country.
To spend money?
Hang on a minute, we want to be a multicultural community, but we know we failed in many ways because people just stay in their own pocket.
Hold on.
And we need to open up those walls.
Multiculturalism does not work. Tolerance of other cultures, of course, but you have to have a monoculture in that we are a Western country, we are basically a Christian country, and it informs our life. Of course you can be Jewish, of course you can be Buddhist.
The very fact that people don't know these things, when I was looking at these slides, the very fact that some people will be surprised by some of those things. You're saying, learn the rules. Well, if you're a refugee, which is specifically what we're talking about, then you're not going to be given a manual or the internet on your way over here on a boat, are you?
Why can't you be given a leaflet by Border Force saying in many languages what are the cultural expectations of you becoming?
I think those things already exist.
And coming and live.
Well,
I don't think they do.
No, well, hang on a minute. I've read a fantastic book about what it was to become here as a German refugee and what it was to come here from my grandmother when she was an Austrian refugee.
What was it issued?
It was a leaflet. She was given a leaflet on how to...
That's all fine.
This is the modern-day version of people actually being talked through.
How do you get people to turn up?
Being given a leaflet, sometimes in a language you might not yet know.
Well,
I think we should also have...
in their language,
and now it's become a leaflet.
No. Sorry, 1 minute. You're talking about a leaflet. I was saying there is a leaflet. Right. There are things out there. But we should go further to help people with lessons. Because...
What if they don't attend?
They'll have to. They have to in Finland. They have to in Norway.
So you deport them?
Yes. There are rules in place.
I see. So someone doesn't turn up for his or her lessons and they get deported.
Who's going to organise this and pay for this?
The cost is going to be extreme.
Can we not have a health and education system in this country first before we educate our refugees into how to go on buses or go to...
I know you are pro-people who need refuge coming to this country. I know we all are.
Of course, I'm very pro-refugee. I would prefer them to learn by our example.
We need to do
the
best possible job we can for them, and can we all agree that we probably aren't right now? Do you actually know any of the ways in which refugees are being integrated into British society right now? We're all debating it like we do. We don't.
They're being housed,
they have
healthcare, I hope.
117,000 people is what you're talking about, yeah? We currently, if you just look, the government are cutting back on essential services to the people that are already here, people, you know, that have paid their taxes, etc. I'm slightly concerned that whilst we, you know, there's austerity, you know, government financially is in the worst financial position we've been in history. So all of a sudden, to now take away critical elements of our budget to educate 117,000 people, you know, is that really the most important thing we should be doing right now? I'm not saying that these people could do with...
It's a trade-off. You want them to come in, you want them to work, you want them to be part of the economy, you want them to be part of culture. And actually, the reason this particular debate came up and the reason this MP was even giving this interview was off the back of the dialogue that came up after the Cologne attacks. And she said she didn't want people to be in a place where they equate the two in a way where nothing is then being done proactively by the government or by MPs. And there is a situation where I think MPs sometimes just can't win. You know, if they aren't taking proactive action, people say, well, why are we not educating these people in the way that we live? And then if they do try and do something, you immediately say, well, we're cutting the NHS, so let's not do anything for that.
A quick question. When you get a British passport, you have to take a test, don't you? You have to learn about the country and all that kind of thing. Couldn't we do something where...
This is what she's suggesting. It could be added on to those processes. It's not going to necessarily even be that costly. You've gone, unlike with the Olympic debate, it's gone straight to the bottom line here, when actually we're talking about how to welcome people into a country properly.
I think if it was added to a process where we made it clear that in order for you to be eligible to stay in this country, you have to take a test, and part of that test is understanding the values and equalities, etc.
To great women.
But I used to live and work in India, and when I went over there,
by the way.
Yeah, but I was only very young, and I went over there and I was living and working there, and nobody, when I arrived in India, sat me down and said, right, Michelle, you know, when you wander around, you have to cover up your shoulders or do this. Nobody did that. I took it upon myself to educate and research and learn for myself because I wanted to be respectful of the culture that I was temporarily a part of. I wanted that. I wanted to not make anyone feel uncomfortable. I wanted to, you know, be a contributing member of that community and society. It was my responsibility to do that. And one of the problems for me, because I agree with you, nobody should be roaming around, groping and doing whatever they want to do. That's disgusting. They shouldn't be here behaving in that way. But we're often talking about grown men. They've come here, they want the hospitality, they want to be cared for, they want to be fed, clothed and housed and looked after and to be free and safe. And with that becomes a responsibility. It's a two-way street.
Which lots of them will, by the way. I thought the issue I was going to have here was that you were going to say how awful for, let's say, refugees who are surgeons or educated coming here, being patronised and being given these classes. I didn't think the issue would be the cost and it has to be beholden to them. I think we're in a situation here where we probably all agree on some level about people working themselves into this society. It's just, I think that not necessarily some of the architecture is there.
But it's like when I go into, like, if I go into a... But I go into a council...
So when in Rome, it's just 3 words, when in Rome. And when they're in this country, learn by example.
But if you choose to come and live in the UK, there should be expectations put upon you that you make an effort for yourself.
Yeah.
So, for example, slightly off topic but also related, when I go into various different council offices or stuff like that, the amount of different languages that things are translated into, whether it's my doctor's surgery when I'm checking in or whether it's the housing office, wherever it is, there's so many different languages. And I feel that if you want to live here, you have to integrate.
Yes,
you have to. And you have to do that with personal responsibility. You have to make an effort to learn the language. You have to make an effort to understand the culture and to be a part of it.
And then the benefit of living in this country you will accrue because you will join in with it. That's the whole thing of what you need to achieve, surely.
Agree.
I think Englishness classes, to me, sounds like a first world reaction to a third world problem. First world problem, third world problem. And it's actually incumbent on the people who come here and accept our hospitality to make the first move, not us as a nation to indoctrinate them into our values.
Add it to the process.
Well, I hope this parliamentary committee has been watching the pledge. They are consulting on it right now, and maybe we will have informed some of their opinion.